Hi guys, Dr. Rob Barrington here with some more nutrition advice. I wanted to talk today about fructose and exercise. And the reason I wanted to talk about fructose and exercise, because it is something that I've covered before. The reason I wanted to talk about fructose and exercise is because I found a very interesting study that really dispels the myths of calorie counting. Now, this isn't the only study that does this. There are many studies. I think the vast majority of studies, when you look into them on weight loss and weight gain, really show that calorie counting doesn't work. First of all, what do we mean by calorie counting? Well, calorie counting is how most people go about losing weight. So you eat a certain amount of calories, you perform a certain amount of exercise, which burns a certain amount of calories, and you simply do a calculation to work out whether you're actually burning more calories than you're consuming, or are you consuming more calories than you're burning, and that will therefore determine whether you gain or lose weight. That's calorie counting. Most of the famous weight loss clubs, the dieting companies that have made a name for themselves selling products and selling sessions where you go and weigh yourself and you talk about how you're losing weight. Most of this mainstream diet industry relies on the calorie counting method. It's inherent in most medical textbooks, and researchers are still lost, I think, in this paradigm, despite the fact that the actual papers they publish, the studies they publish, don't support this contention. So that's calorie counting. Where does fructose and exercise fit into this? Well, this was a study that looked at 8 healthy men, and it fed them radio-labeled fructose. So it was this allowed the researchers to trace where the fructose was metabolized in their body and the paths that it took. And what they did is they fed these subjects a certain amount of fructose. And they either fed the fructose before exercise, after exercise, or during a period of no exercise. And the period where they ate fructose with no exercise was considered the control period. And what they actually found was that if the subjects consumed the fructose before they exercised, they oxidized more of the fructose compared with if they consumed the fructose after exercise. Now, this is explainable. If you have a certain amount of energy available to you, if you are you've taken in some sugars, and those sugars are available to you as energy, and you perform some exercise, it's very likely that you'll oxidize them. Those people that perform the exercise first would have had to rely on the substrates they already had in their body in order to be able to provide them with the energy for exercise. So therefore, the amount of fructose that was oxidized by the subjects that consumed the fructose after exercise was actually less. And that in itself is not particularly surprising. It's also not surprising that those people who consumed the fructose after exercise stored more of that fructose as ultimately as fuel, most likely as glycogen. So more of that fructose was stored in the body simply because less of it was oxidized. So if you eat fructose before you exercise, you burn more of it and you store less of it. If you consume your fructose after you've exercised, you burn less of it but you store more of it. That in itself is not surprising. But if you look at the study as a whole, if you look at it in its entirety, it does dispel the myth. It's more evidence that calorie counting is very pointless. These men all consumed the same amount of fructose and they all performed the same exercise. Yet the amount of fructose that was oxidized or the amount that was stored was dependent on when they consumed the fructose. So you could have added up the calories that fructose provided, and you could have used that as part of your calorie counting, but you would have got very different answers whether you had consumed the fructose before or after the exercise, which is just very good evidence that calorie counting is a complete waste of time. If something as simple as consuming fructose, before or after exercise can cause a significant difference in the amount of the substrate that you oxidize, clearly it means that you cannot use that kind of data to create an energy balance equation and use that as part of your calorie counting process. So I just wanted to use this as a very simple illustration. I go on a lot about calorie counting and why it's pointless. I go on a lot about calorie counting and how it's completely the wrong way to try and lose body weight and improve your body composition. However, it's how most people go about trying to lose weight, and I think this is why so many people are not successful in their long-term weight loss goals. This is just another piece of evidence. I've shown many pieces of evidence both on my blog and through my videos that calorie counting really is a fallacy, and ultimately there are so many variables about when you eat the food, what type of exercise you perform, how long you perform the exercise for. There's so many variables that it makes it really very difficult to extrapolate anything from the amount of food that you consume and the amount of exercise that you perform in terms of a simple energy balance equation. So I hope that was interesting. I found the study very interesting. I will put a link to the study in the comments box below this video, so if you want to have a look at the study you can do. Even if you only read the abstract, most of the information is in the abstract, and if that's all you can you have time to read, you will still get quite a lot of information from that. So I encourage you to read it. As always, eat well, stay healthy and protect yourself, and I will see you soon for another video. Take care.